So I've been running the Expedition 1 dual swing bumper for a couple of months now, and I think I've got a pretty good feel for it, so I wanted to go ahead and throw up this review. I did forget a couple of major points, pros and cons, or just things to note when I did the video, so please stay tuned for the trailer after the video's over and take a look at that. I'm going to try to address some of those things. Plus I used some gear in the installation of the bumper and accessories that I figured might be interesting to somebody. I'll put the links down below. These are not affiliate links or anything, and not even recommended. It worked for me, but just as a guideline for you in case you're interested in doing the same things. So please enjoy the video and stay tuned for notes at the end. So it's late November, and beautiful 41 degrees today out in the property. Figured I'd shoot a video, and what we want to talk about today is the Expedition 1 dual swing bumper. I've been meaning to do the review on this, but I was trying to make sure that I had enough experience to be able to do a thorough review. So I actually love the bumper. It's got its pros and cons, but so far it's been excellent with very few problems. So I did the install myself, and when I say I did it myself, I mean just me. And it was a little bit challenging. It's a heavy bumper, trying to get it up there and get it on. The access to all the locations where you're putting bolts is not easy. You see the little holes where the lights are at. Those are rigid D series lights connected to my backup lights, but those holes, you reach your hands in quite often into those holes and these latch holes before you put the latches on, and it's pretty tight. You drop a lot of bolts, you skin a lot of knuckles, and just getting the bumper onto the truck, there's 4 main bolts on the frame here that you have to put these brackets on, and once those that are up there, it's pretty tight getting access to it. I had to use some interesting ratchet techniques to get those clamped down, but it took me, I did 1 full day and I did 2 partial days, so it took me 3 days, if you will, but somebody that was dedicated knew what they were doing, obviously get it done a lot faster. The bumper has got the tire carrier, and I got the jerry can carrier, and I got the high lift jack with a pull along carrier. I don't know that I'm ever going to use the jerry can because I've got the jerry cans up here on the side of the rack, and that works for me just fine. But this is a good solution. I would say the only problem with having, and I've got one of the smaller high lift jacks, one of the problems with the high lift jack sitting there is it does stick up pretty high, and you've got to be kind of careful because you can definitely hit stuff. See, it's above the top of my rack. So real nice. I added the D-rings. These are nice D-rings too because they've got a locking mechanism. It's got a little key on this end, so that tightens in to this and it keeps it secure, stops it from falling out. For this, I actually used Loctite to keep it on there. It kept loosening up, and I was really afraid it was going to come off while I was driving down the road. So, awesome, strong bumper. This thing is super thick, and I love, this is probably one of the things I love the most about it. It has tie-ins to the bracketry, and they actually replace, I don't know if you can see that, but they replaced the original bracketry with super heavy duty bracketry, and then this unit comes up on the sides, and you got plenty of clearance between the body, but that is substantially more robust than the original skids on those rear quarter panels. And it's a Gladiator, so it's pretty vulnerable in that area, so I really appreciate that. I really like that. It gives it a nice clean look because it's all integrated. So fantastic. As I said, I did install the rigid D-series lights. That was pretty simple, straightforward. I would say the only thing, it's kind of tight, and in my brain the normal way to do it is to drop the bolt in from the top and then thread the nut and washer on the bottom of it. And it's just too tight to be able to do it. So I went ahead and flipped it around, and that worked fine. Took me a few aggravating minutes to think of doing that, but once I did that, it worked out pretty good. I think they look pretty sharp sitting in there too. But so it's got the backup sensors, and they all work. I think every now and again I get kind of a false alert on the tire because the tire's kind of up over it, but it's not a big deal. It works well. The camera relocation unit, I know some people said that they had some issues when I looked online. I had no issues. This thing worked perfectly. I did exactly what they said to do. It mounted right up, and it's because the Gladiator's lifted. I think the location of it is now better than when it was in the tailgate, and they give you a little filler for the tailgate. I'll show you when I open it up, but that worked out fairly well. The only thing that I found kind of surprising, it's not a huge deal, but the license plate. So they said you may have to trim your license plate. Well, they weren't kidding. I wound up having to trim probably about 1 inch off of the license plate. Now I'm still good. I didn't cut away anything that was absolutely essential, but just be aware you're going to have to trim that license plate out. I'm not sure why they didn't come up with some type of an accommodation to make that area just a little bit larger, but it is what it is. So let's get down to the functionality part of it. So see, I'm sitting on a hill right now, and so that thing takes right off. But just for so these latches seem to work okay, but they seem a little bit cheesy, but so far they've worked well. I'd say the only problem that I had when I first got it in these catch brackets here were kind of interesting. So they really didn't tell you which one to install, which way to install them. They pretty much look the same. You want there's a slight ramp up, and you want the ramp up to be where your thing slides. So just calculate where the ramp is. And then this particular one was slightly off, and I got a big crescent wrench on it and bent it up a little bit more, because most of the time it would not catch, and it'll roll around and smack the side of your vehicle if you're not real careful, if you're on a hill or anything. So be cautious there. Make sure that thing catches. I did have an issue. There's some metal to metal contact with this latch, worse than the other side. I'll show you. That goes in really quick and easy. On this side, a little bit more force necessary. And when that happened, I did not get it latched really good. And I was leaving the property here, and I was driving on the expressway back, and all of a sudden I looked into my rear, or in my side mirror, I could actually see this tire sticking out around the edge. Fortunately, that caught and it held it. So I had to pull over and secure it. I just got some paracord and lashed it down really good. And then when I got home, I realized that I wasn't fully compressing the latch because there was this pressure back, and I just thought it was secured. It really wasn't. Once I realized that, I make sure it's secured. I have not had another problem with it, so that was fine. Obviously, that was my bust. I should have known. So it works really well. As you can see, super heavy duty latches. They latch really super tight, and they seem to do a great job. There's bearings inside of these spindles here, and they're all sealed up, and they seem to work really well. They're very smooth opening. You see the plug for the camera. I don't know how I really feel about the little thin steel cover that they put on the top of it. I guess I appreciate this a little bit because it gives you some traction, but in this vehicle with the tailgate closed, there's not really anything you're going to be doing up standing on that bumper, so I don't think it really matters. I might prefer just a powder coated steel surface there, but not too bad, not too shabby. One of the One of the kind of interesting problems that I ran into when I was doing the install is on this tire carrier. Let me see if I can get this thing. Yeah, on a hill, that's not easy to do one-handed. All right, so one of the problems I ran into, I got the unit all assembled, and they have a universal plate with a whole bunch of holes in it and then you have the studs, and you've got a compression fit them, and there's like 2 different styles of washers that come with it. And the instructions just stop at building out the frame unit itself. Once that metal frame is done with that universal plate on it, that's all it tells you. It doesn't tell you anything about how to compression fit those things on there. You don't know if you're doing it the right way or the wrong way. And obviously with compression fit, if you have to repeat the process, you're going to get looser and looser as you go. It didn't say what washers to use, and it didn't say what holes to use for the Jeep's lug pattern. I just called it a universal mounting plate. So I called the company. It was kind of odd. So I got a guy, he wanted a video of where I was at with the bumper, and I said, well, what do you mean, where am I at with the bumper? I told you I completed assembling the chassis, and I just need to know how to press fit those studs, and I need to know where to do it for the Jeep, because I had lifted this 37-inch tire up onto another bolt and tried to rotate it around and identify which holes to use, and it was very difficult to do trying to hold this tire up. And I was a little bit exasperated, so I said, hey, look, you know, I need to know this. So finally, he didn't make me upload a video to show where I was at. He sent me a little PDF file that had a picture that showed all the different wheel patterns and which holes to use. It turns out that the washers, you use the one washer type unless you've got a back spacing issue with your wheel, and then you can use the other one. So I did not have that problem. I press fit into the holes and that were identified for the 5x5 lugs, and everything worked out fine. So no issues there. But there was a little irritation on my part over the support on that. But other than that, they did pretty good. So after I got the bumper installed, I realized that I had misplaced some bolts, and I was going to run up to the hardware store and pick up these bolts. And I had the high lift jack on here, and I wanted to take it off, so I took it off and I laid this hardware, these knobs here, these 2 metal plates here and here, and then this apparatus which goes through the bottom. It's just a carriage bolt. I laid all the hardware up on top of the tonneau cover and totally forgot about it and drove off. Could not find the parts for anything. So I called them up, and they were very helpful. They went ahead, they shipped me these plates, because those are obviously manufactured by them. Those are custom plates. And the rest of the hardware, they said, well, you know, you'd actually be better off buying that online somewhere. And they gave me enough information to be able to identify what hardware I needed. And so I was able to go out there and get that. And I got the 2 replacement plates pretty cheap. I think they only charged me $13, including shipping for that. So actually, it might have been $13 plus shipping. But overall, the cost wasn't bad. It was my bust. They covered me, and I really appreciated that. So overall, the Expedition 1 dual swing bumper is a hit. I would say it does add a little bit of weight to the Jeep since I installed it. I've got a lot of stuff, and I normally carry, I don't have it with me today, but I usually carry a large Roam box in the bed with all kinds of recovery gear, which is fairly heavy. So I added a lot of weight, and after I threw this bumper on there, I was starting to get pretty close to the fender here. So I talked to my 4-wheel drive shop, and I wanted to take it in. I got the 488 gears put on this thing, and I also got the underbelly skid And I said, hey guys, I need you to help me out here, do something about this spring compression. I don't want to just put spacers in because my spring's compressed to the point where it's going to create an issue. So they came up with a scheme. They actually, I've got 3.5-inch springs, Metalcloak springs, and ahead, in front and rear. They left the front alone. They took out the rears and they put in a 4.5-inch Evo plush ride spring with a 1.5-inch Terraflex spacer. And now it looks a lot better. I came out here today. I built a fire pit. I had about 600 pounds of cement block with me, retaining wall stuff, and it actually just scrunched down to the point of level, because it does normally, it sits up a little bit higher in the back now. But yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, this is a heavy bumper, much heavier than the stock. So if you're concerned about weight at all, especially weight distribution, because all this stuff hanging on the back of the vehicle, you know, it's interesting. But I like this solution a lot better than my old solution. So I had, in case anybody doesn't know, I actually had a spare tire holder up on that center rack piece that I got from E-Trailer, and it's kind of like the apparatus that's, you know, underneath the Jeep when it's stock. But I just winched the tire up there, locked it in. The problem with that, it actually looked cool. I liked the way it looked, and it definitely towed the tire. Not an issue there. But if you had to get to the tire, you had to take the tonneau cover off. You had to lower that thing down and then hoist that tire out of the bed. If you've got stuff in your bed, you're going to have all kinds of interesting issues. And I didn't need to use the spare, but if I ever did, that was going to be an interesting situation. So I do like this better. So again, overall, Expedition 1 dual swing bumper is a hit. I like it. It looks good. It's functional, and it gets looks. It's unique. So thank you for watching. If you like the video, like and subscribe. I'm going to try to continue to create more content. It's getting that time of year where we're not doing a whole lot of four-wheel drive trails, but right now I'm doing a lot of camping on the property. I do love to winter camp, so thank you much. This is a brief video of when I first installed the third brake light option. This is something that I got from Quadratech for a JK, and it works really well. We discussed doing chase lights with a third brake light integrated, but my girlfriend really liked this option. I still may go with a chase light later, but this works really good, keeps me in good standing with DOT. So I just ran the wiring down from the plate along the arm. I could have spliced it into the brake light, but I had the tailgate off anyways for the bumper install, so I ran it in through the bumper and attached it directly to the third brake light. So it works great. I highly like it. I list the parts down below that I purchased. The other issue that I failed to mention is the rear view mirror. With my old style of hanging the tire from the rack or this, you don't get a real good view out of your rear view mirror, and I love using my mirrors. So I elected to go with a VanTop camera. Now I'll list the links below. Not recommended necessarily. I enjoy it. It's been great. I've had no problems with it, but there are tons of other options out there. I went with the VanTop because at the time it does 4K, but it does 2K front and rear. So I want a decent display. It works great, and it's like never having a tire there at all. So I'll list those parts. I would note that you need the extension kit, and I also did the Hardwire kit, so I ran it to the battery. They have the standard 12-volt cigarette lighter adapter that comes with it. That's not the way I wanted to go. I doubt anybody else would want to go that way anyways. One of the only difficult thing about that installation for the camera is hiding the wiring, but I found that I was able to tuck it underneath all the dash trim and really get it out of the way. Unless you know to look for it, you'd never notice that it was there. So it was a really clean install. That worked out really well. So the other thing that I should note is that you do require for the bumper installation, specifically the big bolts on the spindles to lock that down on those bearings, you do need a special socket, which is a 1 and 17ths, 1 and 7/16ths deep impact socket. So I'll list a link below for that on Amazon. Once again, as long as it's the 1 and 7/16ths size socket, it would work. You don't have to use anything specific. And then I'll also list down below the shackles that I used and some of the electrical stuff that I used to run the D-Series rigid lights. I ran the D-Series rigid lights from a relay circuit that's behind the tail light, and I list all the equipment there. There's probably a lot of different ways that you can do that, but that actually worked for me. If anybody is really interested in the process that I went through, exactly how I connected it, just let me know, and I'll try to fill in all the details. I elected to do mine with some special connectors. They're all waterproof, and it can be completely disconnected if I ever want to disconnect that in the future. I can't imagine why, but there it is. An afterthought, I did run the wiring from the battery through a loom underneath. I got it all tucked away, but in hindsight, I would have probably put an extra set or extra length of wiring in there, because it would have saved me a lot of time later on if I wanted to run some additional wiring back there for the chase lights or any other type of electronic device that I want to install in the bed. So just keep in mind when you're running it, make a plan. If you want to run the extra wiring, it really doesn't take any additional work on your part, and it probably would help. So hopefully I covered all of the things that I omitted in the main video. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If you liked the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see my future content, go ahead and subscribe. And please leave any comments or questions down below. I always try to answer anything that comes in. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. But hey, there's the Expedition 1 bumper. I do recommend it. I got great support from the company with a few odd things here and there, but basically they did a good job, and the quality of the bumper is top notch. So I don't know what their supply will look like in the future, but I did wait about 8 months for this bumper to arrive. So you want to keep that in mind as well if you're interested. So thank you very much for watching.